So if you personally like the writing in these games, then by all means, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. But with that, before I leave, I just have one last important message to say. Sega, please don't fuck up Sonic Frontiers. So, it's pretty clear that I don't like Sonic Frontiers. Hell, I personally believe that it's my least favorite mainline Sonic title. It really is a shame, because on paper, Frontiers sounds like the greatest Sonic game ever made. Like, an open world Sonic game that felt like he was going to go on the Breath of the Wild route. But, how well did Frontiers stick the landing?
Sure, there's gotta be some.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, Sonic 4, I bow to thee. You are no longer the shit physics game.
It didn't. Yes, I may be harsh on this game, but I just want the best for Sonic, you know? This is the worst for him, and I really wish I could enjoy this game, but everything about this game is either bad to me or okay at best. I still kept my hopes up and figured I'd get this during a sale or something, hoping that there'd be something good about this title. And during Christmas of 2022, I got this as a gift on Steam, and I thought it was mediocre. At the time, I didn't think this game was the worst main title, but then the DLC crashed and burned and it made me realize, wait a minute, I hate this game. And I could just edit together footage to prove my point, but I have a lot of steam to let out, so let's explore the problems, eh? Oh, and before any terminally online Sonic fans complain, I'm making this review after the final update dropped, so suck. Now, if you watched my first video on this channel, you know that I have a great disdain for the kind of stories they're telling from Sonic Colors and onward, mainly due to the short cast of characters and the writing feeling way too childish. Frontiers doesn't do too much to fix this if you ask me. The story is just a huge nothing to me. Sonic and friends get stuck on the Starfall Islands, everyone but Sonic gets trapped in cyberspace, which is basically just limbo in a way, so Sonic has to get the Chaos Emeralds and beat the shit out of each Titan in each area to free them. There's also this mysterious girl, Sage. She basically gives Sonic's vague warning and tries to stop him from making progress, warning him not to do so, and later on in the game we learn that she's Eggman's daughter, and well, I don't like this change. The problem is that Sage is that we don't know anything about her and we learn nothing about her, and basically we get is just like crumbs, you know? It just tries to make me feel sad and fails miserably. Point is, her character is just so empty to me that I don't feel anything when she sacrifices herself in the game's ending. In turn, she also makes Eggman a father, and man, you could not make him any lamer than this. Listen, Eggman was already on a decline, being boiled onto an incompetent goofball of a villain, but holy shit, the last game had him take over the goddamn world, regardless of his poor execution, and now you just try to redeem that all by making him a father? On the topic of the characters, while they are not as annoying as they were in the previous games, not quipping every 5 minutes, they still feel like husks of their former selves. They're trying to fix their mistakes, but it just comes off as empty to me. I still appreciate the attempt, but it's ultimately worthless. I would rather have them just not focus on the blunders of the previous games and just move on. The only positive I can give them is that the interactions are pretty good here. I really like how most of the interactions here, especially the one involving Knuckles. My favorite cutscene in this whole game is when Sonic and Knuckles just sit down and have a conversation about Knuckles feeling stuck guarding the Master Emerald his whole life. Even if his entire cutscene is soured by the fact that we see Knuckles constantly with the boys since the adventure games with zero consequence. Props for trying to justify that here, but it feels a little too late. Regardless, you still get a really feel for the bond these two share, and it's elevated by the amazing voice performances.
今の私は魂だけの電脳体、体はまだ電脳空間に囚われているのよ。
電脳空間？どこかでその言葉を聞いたような。
ソニックも囚われていたはずよ。
さっきの不思議なグリーンヒルのことか。
If you have your Japanese audio on, that is. Yeah, in English these characters just sound at their worst, save for Tails. I already didn't like the voices before, but I can at least tolerate them. Here it's just outright bad, and not even the funny kind. I understand this is something the voice actors were told to do to sound serious, and I have nothing against them as they're just doing their job, but good lord, Sonic and Eggman have to be the worst offenders.
Okay, seriously? We need to find Eggman and figure out how catching these aliens fits into whatever heinous plan he's hatching.
Those sure are words you said just now.
I'm saying I'm fine. You're not, and I'm worried.
I'll be fine. And I need this power to rescue you.
Precious little aliens! I'll harness their hyper-go-on power, and then nothing will stop me. I know I say that every time, but this time, really, nothing will stop me. Oh, good. He's back.
This is our chance. I never simulated a scenario where Sonic helped, since you never authorized it.
I still don't want to!
Please.
I know it's all opinions, but these characters should not sound like that to me, especially Sonic. A 3-foot tall cartoon hedgehog should not sound like a creepy guy on the streets. Oh, right, there's a story. Other than that, there's this neat concept of the island corrupting Sonic the more he progresses, and it's a really cool concept. I like it. You can even see it in the in-game animations. It doesn't affect gameplay, but that's probably for the better. Unfortunately, like most of the game, this concept is absolutely wasted. When Sonic does get fully corrupted, it's just solved with the power of friendship. That's it. This is a prime opportunity to make this a segment where it plays the other characters, or even a boss fight. But nah, just nothing. Guess old habits die hard, huh? Oh, and in the end, there's this huge entity called The End, which goes sentient and tries to destroy the world or something. I fell asleep during the majority of the time it had relevance, and it's all just a blur to me. Sonic goes super one last time, and with the help of Sage, they defeat the Purple Moon. Sage sacrifices herself, Eggman is sad, and Sonic and gang fly off into sunset as if they didn't see a literal child die. 5 out of 10, this story is boring. Also, Sage's death means nothing because of the post-credit scene, not to mention the lore building that contradicts the previous games and callbacks that just feel like Family Guy cutaways. Can we please stop with the constant references and focus on the present, please?
Hey, assistant note here. If a Sonic game shows that pixelated scene where Knuckles meets Sonic for the first time again, I'm gonna do something I'm gonna regret.
That was quite lengthy, wasn't it? And we haven't even talked about... So, this is the first open world Sonic game. Like I said before, it's an amazing idea on paper, and there are fan games that show how this concept could really shine. Imagine being able to explore these huge environments with Sonic speed, going through loops, bouncing on badniks, all that with the added freedom of being in a huge environment. Basically, a Sonic game where I can just boot it up, run around for a bit, and feel happy as a result. Sonic Utopia, while short, is a great concept of how good an open world Sonic game can really be. Yes, I know that the lead developer has done some pretty bad things, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Utopia is still a good concept for this kind of idea. So, did Frontiers do any of that? Of course not. Already, it's not a good sign when there's already 4 separate areas and you progress to another by being the big boss of said area. But okay, that's not bad, you can still explore these areas freely, right? I think you know the answer at this point. The first problem is the control. Already there's alarm bells going off in my head when I see that they let you customize your controls. I'm sure people find this cool, but me personally, I feel like in a platformer, an open world one specifically, you should be able to have a good time with the given controls. I didn't bother customizing these, and well, it's very clear why they did this. The control just feels really sloppy and it never feels reliable to do any type of platforming. This is at its worst when Sonic is in the air because he has like barely any air control at all, and it makes platforming a real struggle. No amount of customizing your control will fix this. Not to mention the momentum is just completely screwed. A thing that was always there in the classic games, just gone. Not to mention the boost is also here. In the previous games, this would give Sonic a huge burst of speed, but it was limited for a reason, and you had to choose wisely when to use it. Here, it's been nerfed so much that it's more like a run button, so why even have a limit for it? Regardless, it's like they took the control from Forces, a very linear automated game, and popped it into an open world. It didn't even work good back then. Sure, I could customize controls, but why would I ever want to do that in a platformer? This barely even counts as a solution. It doesn't help that Sonic is just quite literally super glued to the ground, so good luck trying to do anything fun, like trying a new way to get into an area. Another issue is that the gameplay loop is just very boring. When you see characters, you have to find memory tokens to make them more stable due to their limbo. Talk to them, collect keys to get emeralds, talk to friends again, play pointless minigames, rinse and repeat until you get to the Titan. Hope you like doing this 4 times. Sure, you can do these tests to clear out the map so you know where you're even going. Problem is, these tests are so simple that I don't really feel any incentive to do them other than to just clear the map. it really doesn't help that you can cheese a good chunk of the tasks. But you know what the real kicker is? You can skip all of this if you just find a fishing spot. See, throughout these games you'll find these purple coins by just exploring or burning your eyes via these Starfire segments. Here, you can use your tokens in this really basic fishing minigame where you just time a button press correctly. Just do this plenty of times and you'll have enough tokens to buy your way to the Titan. Hell, even if you don't have any tokens, you could just use this cooking minigame where again, all you do is just time a button press correctly. Sure, this doesn't get as many tokens as fishing, but it's better than nothing. Cooking at least makes more sense than fishing a spring from the ocean. Is it just chilling there with the rest of the fish underwater? Not to mention the mini games the game constantly puts you at a halt to do. Aside from the pinball one, these aren't terrible, but they feel like side missions rather than something mandatory. But the complaints don't end there, of course. There's also the level design, if you can even call it that. I'm being very generous here. This level design is the most basic platforming you'll ever see, and it really does not feel like an open world game. When playing any other open world game like Breath of the Wild, the environment is free for you to explore. Right or not, you can get to your destination via any method you want, and that's what makes exploration fun in that game. Meanwhile, in Sonic Frontiers, the game will just automatically slap a dash pad and force you on the right way if you dare try to take a different path. Everything is so automated here that this game feels more like a linear game rather than an open world. Sorry, I mean open zone game. It was already a growing problem in the previous games, but when you automate me in these environments that feel like I should be able to freely explore, it feels like a huge tease. And that's not even the worst of it. The third island, Chaos Island, has to be one of the worst areas I've ever played in a video game ever. Take everything I said previously, but add forced 2D sections and you've got a real stinker here. Not to mention the pure lack of accessibility. It was already a problem before, but here there's areas that are only reachable via specific rail segments. And even when I just want to get to a Tails or an Emerald, the game will pull me another way just to do a boring 2D section. Hell, this even extends to the memory tokens too. See, there's these like treasure spots you can uncover a lot of memory tokens from, but from the third island onward, most of these are hiding springs or dash pads to automate you through a section. They had to know what they were doing. But of course, that's not all they screwed up. There's also combat in this game, and well, it fares as well as the rest of this game. Sonic throwing hands with the robots of this island sounds like a cool idea, but unfortunately the combat is also automated. The issue here is that most of the fights in this game just amount to pressing the attack button over and over. Sure, you can unlock more moves as you progress via a skill tree, but it does nothing to break the monotony of this combat. Making matters worse is the parry move, where you can just hold the bumpers and Sonic will just stay in midair for however long you hold it. Due to this, it's very easy to cheese combat, as a successful parry would just slow down time, allowing you to get as many hits in as you want. Other than that, there's also the Cycloop. This move where you can trace a circle basically. At most, this is used for the short tasks, uncovering secrets, or farming rings, so it doesn't change the fact that this combat is just style over substance, and there's just no skill or fun to it. Other than that, you'll notice that there's these stats in the bottom left. These basically are your attack, defense, speed, and rings. You can upgrade attack and defense by finding these seeds by doing stuff. And for the speed and rings, you can upgrade these by finding these stone creatures called Cocos. And of course, to upgrade your stats, you have to find the proper Coco to do so. The only way to fast travel to them is by finding the scroll in the fishing minigame. Around the fourth island, I stopped caring about my stats and I just moved on. Not like combat is very hard anyways. You know what the worst part is? Is that Sonic can do combat. Sonic Heroes, while split between 3 characters, had combat the best I think you could do in a speed-based platformer. There's also the Sonic Unleashed. While the Werehog plays completely differently, he still had a lot of combos you can unlock and master that were fun to pull off and required skill to do. Not to mention it was just a lot of fun to explore the levels. Frontiers combat reminds me of the Wii Werehog, where most of the combat is just mashing buttons. But even then, the game had the excuse of doing that due to designing for the Wii Remote and Nunchuck first. And even then, the Wii Werehog still keeps the fun exploration and platforming from the other version of Unleashed. Frontiers does try to shake things up with these guardians you'll run into while exploring the island, but these fights just suck. Most of them drag on, and when they don't, they're too busy being janked to even enjoy them. The only benefit to being these guardians is to get those portal gears, which leads to the other part of this game, cyberspace. Cyberspace is again a neat concept on paper. The stage from Colors and Forces make them bit-sized segments with objectives to get more keys for the Chaos Emeralds. The problem? All of Sonic's control issues from the open world carry on to over here, so that just makes playing these not fun at all.
But if I go off of any spring, I can't, even this one, I can't It automates me onto the ledge.
I find it so baffling. This is an open
Wait,
world
what?
Sonic.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Well, okay. Well, I'm not getting it.
Exactly. Instead of shooting ahead, you.
What? What?
Instead of shooting
Guys,
ahead, you now just
They
stop.
fixed it.
Wow.
What's going on?
If I came across a cyberspace stage that was hard and annoying to do the objectives on, I would just go fishing to go get keys. Amazing game design here, folks. And lastly, we've got the Titans. You fight these after getting all the emeralds, and it's these janky sections where you can just abuse the hell of the combat to mow down these bosses, complete with pace-breaking quick-time events. I get that it's cool seeing Supersonic take down these giant creatures, but all these segments just make me do wish that I was playing something else like, you know, Metal Gear Rising. The last boss, the end, isn't even an actual boss, it's just a single quick-time event. Well, it is a boss you're playing on the hard difficulty, which is a shooter minigame for some reason. I get it's a harder version of the same minigame on the final island, but as the final boss? Really?
Assistant here. Apparently this is just a reference to the popular game Ikaruga, which is 10 times better and has 0 monologue.
Either way, the gameplay is just a mess and feels more like a busy work and padding rather than an actual game. But the gameplay isn't the only thing that's a mess. Graphically, this game is just horrendous. The first thing, and the most obvious one, the pop-in. Oh my god, the pop-in. I wouldn't mind if it wasn't so goddamn noticeable. Everything, and I mean everything, pops in at a pretty close distance from Sonic, and the cutscenes aren't safe from this either. I'm no game developer, but isn't there something you can use to make the objects less detailed when far away? Even barring that, can't you just like mask the pop-in with like fog or something? What's Sonic's Frontiers excuse? Some lore reason?
I'm gonna hop on that grind rail over there. Care to join me?
So that is how they appear to you.
How they appear? What, don't you see them too?
The current iteration of cyberspace was formed based on your memories. Since linking with it, your memories are now affecting things even outside of cyberspace. As a result of the link, many of the things you see around you are recreations from your memory. It is a testament to how deeply you are linked with cyberspace.
Oh, of course. Even putting that all aside, this game is just doesn't look really appealing, and I'm giving this game the best chance I can graphically. I'm using the PC version with the maximum settings, and I even have a few codes to get rid of some of the graphical glitches and filters I don't like. With all of that, this game is just ugly. The main issue I've had with this game is that these environments are just super uninspired and bland. The best way I can summarize this is that this game doesn't look like a Sonic game, it looks like a game with Sonic in it. Not to mention that the game just straight up becomes an eyesore when you have slots on for the Starfall event. Thankfully you can turn the slots off to avoid burning your eyes, but then you risk losing the chance to get more fishing tokens or cocos, so your pick? I have also already talked about the level design, but did you know that these are just like shit floating in the air? This actually makes this game feel like something out of a Roblox game me and a bunch of friends would make during a weekend in like high school or something. Tell me, when you're playing Super Mario Odyssey, a game with a similar open zone structure to Frontiers, do you see a bunch of rocks and terrain floating in the air to climb on? No, because the terrain is crafted to look natural while still being fun to platform on. Sure, there's coins and power moons in the air, but that's far more appealing than just trying to look at the world and seeing a bunch of shit just floating in the air. And the cutscenes, dear god, these cutscenes. Sonic has always been struggling with this since Colors, but it's just at the absolute worst here. Since they're going for a more realistic art style here, everything just looks more gritty and unappealing to me. And that's not even talking about the animations. When the characters aren't just standing there and talking again, you're being treated to the most stiff and rigid animations you'll ever see. Don't get me even started on 1D mode, it just looks awful. This also applies in-game too, because in earlier games, even if the cutscenes are lagging, the in-game animations are still pretty damn good. The cutscenes with the ancients are also really laughable, especially the one with Tails. It looks like this unfinished animatic rather than an actual cutscene. And it's sad that Sonic Unleashed, a game from 2008, has better cutscenes than Frontiers, a game from 2022. Hell, even with its terrible frame rate and somewhat janky motion capture, Unleashed still looks miles better than whatever the hell Frontiers is going for. And that's depressing the more I think about that. But there has to be one saving grace for this game, right? So, even in the worst of Sonic games, they can still have pretty good soundtracks, most of the time. Frontiers? Well, I won't say that it's a bad soundtrack, but it's not a good one either. If anything, it's one hell of a mixed bag. The main tracks I like from this game are the more ambient ones where you explore the island, and I love how the tracks slowly build the more emeralds you get. And my favorite track in the game was during the final boss fight, even with how underwhelming it is. The Titans teams that play during their fights are also fine, though my problem, aside from it sounding like pure AMV material, is that this type of music isn't what I really think of when I play a Sonic game. I'll admit the instrumentals are nice and it should have been what was used rather than these screamy vocals, but then at the bottom of the barrel we have the cyberspace tracks, which range from a solid at best to just downright obnoxious music that feels like it belongs elsewhere. But yeah, it's a shame that this soundtrack couldn't be good. I would say that's it, but of course, since this game was a success and it is the modern day, you know what that means. Over the course of a year, this game would get 3 updates. 2 of these were pretty nothing if you ask me, just extra cosmetic stuff. I wouldn't mind this if they bothered to fix the pop-in and the various graphical issues at least, but of course they didn't. The second update even added the spin dash, which you had to unlock behind a bunch of challenges. Sonic has had this move by default since the classic games, and you decide to lock it, and of course, the big final update, the Final Horizon. A whole new campaign that promised new challenges, new story, and a playable Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, some things we haven't had since 2006. I didn't really have much hope for this DLC, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued by it at the very least. So, how does it fare?
Why?
It sucks even more than the base game. That's impressive. The start of this DLC is basically the new canon ending of this game, where Sonic climbs towers while the others grab Chaos Emeralds. The new characters play like absolute shit, there's no sugarcoating this. There's a delay between their moves sometimes, and you have to unlock the ability to attack, meaning you have to unlock to punch his Knuckles. The dialogue is also bad here. When it's not a whole bunch of nothing, it's really just the game jiggling keys at you like it's the past and going, remember? Remember? The gameplay here is also literally the same thing as the base game, but the difficulty has been even more ramped up. I get wanting to fix the base game being piss easy, but this is just beyond overkill. And on top of that, you have these trials that basically artificially increase the difficulty. Either they're too easy, too hard, or you have to fight all 3 times again with a 400 ring limit. Isn't that fun?
Great content in the Sonic the Hedgehog video game that I am.
Is this the
playing
final
on this
boss?
day. No,
No.
this is the original first boss.
I was about to say.
Oh
this
my
is-
god, really?
Yeah, we gotta do it again.
Why?
Sonic.
The final boss is also just basically the same thing as before, for the most part. Sure, the new proper supersonic form, but that's just supersonic with blue eyes. This boss is yet again nothing to write home about. And the new ending is just Sage not sacrificing herself so Eggman can be the wholesome dad he just had to be. Bah, whatever, I'm gonna go lie down. This shit is giving me a headache. Listen folks, I wanted to like this game, I really did. Even with everything against the pre-release, I still wanted to like this game. And for those who liked the game, good for you. I'm happy you're able to enjoy this game, and don't let my opinion change that. But to me, this game is just an absolute unfinished mess. Listen, when I heard that it was an open world Sonic game, I was thinking of something like Sonic Utopia. Even half of those would have been fine. But man, this is just terrible. Unlike Forces, a lot of Sonic fans seem to really like this game, and good for them, nothing against it. But it seems Sega just seems to only wanting to be appeal to the fans now. All they do really is just reference the past and all that, and these type of games are just all we're gonna get for the next few years, I guess. Save for a miracle that will happen, but I'm not gonna believe in that, honestly. And listen, it's not like I want Sonic to fail, I want him to succeed. I really do, but this just isn't it to me. If you're a Sonic fan, you're thinking this is peak fiction or peak Sonic, sure, go ahead, I'm not stopping you. But let me ask you this, to someone who isn't a Sonic fan, or in the Sonic circle, what does Sonic Frontiers look like to them? You show these people something like Generations and Minya, they would likely go,
Oh, that looks fun.
or at least understand the appeal. But you show them Sonic Frontiers, and what did they see? A bunch of shit floating in the air that's more akin to an unfinished creation in a sandbox game rather than a full retail game.
I don't know, Gem. This Sonic Frontiers DLC is pretty great.
Sorry about that. The point is that when people see the current Sonic game, all they see is shit. And that's harsh, I know, but I have friends outside the Sonic circle, you know, and to everyone I show this game to, they always tell me it looks like an unfinished, unpolished mess. And that's my point. Sonic games are no longer trying to be good games on their own. They're trying to be good games just to the fan base, which isn't what a game should be. Tell me, with Mario games, do you only see Mario fans hyping up the game or calling it good? No, people talk highly about its games because they're actually good games on their own, fan or not. And it's not like they can't make good stuff anymore. Before Frontiers came out, they made this prologue animated short that I loved. It's the kind of effort I want from this franchise, and the effort I want to see in the games. But alas, I can only just pray for that. It's a shame they thought with Frontiers, it really is. People will say I should have expected with how often Sega mishandles this franchise, but I really want an open world Sonic game. It's not like the ingredients weren't there. In the end, while it's sad this is the state of the franchise, I can at least cherish the stuff that I love about this franchise, because it's not going anywhere anytime soon. In the end, all I can really do is just hope.
Well, look on the bright side. At least Sonic Superstars is great and wasn't rushed at all and was really good of a really fun experience, and it's not currently on sale after 2 months of release.